My name is Leonidas, King of Sparta. The year was 480 BC, and the greatest empire the world had ever seen was marching toward Greece. Xerxes, the king of Persia, had set his sights on our homeland. His empire spanned vast lands, and his army was unlike anything Greece had ever faced. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, and warships, all ready to crush the independent city-states of Greece. Xerxes believed that by sheer force, he could subjugate us. He underestimated one thing: the spirit of the Greeks. While we were divided by politics and regional rivalries, we shared a common belief in freedom, and that belief was stronger than any empire. Sparta was known throughout Greece for one thing: our warriors. From the moment a Spartan boy could walk, he was trained for war. Weakness was not tolerated. Fear was not accepted. Spartan men lived and died by the sword, and the greatest honor we could achieve was to die in battle for our homeland. So when news of Xerxes' invasion reached us, I knew that Sparta could not stand aside. But I also knew that we could not fight Xerxes head-on. His army was simply too vast. Instead, I chose the narrow pass of Thermopylae, a natural choke point where only a few men could fight at a time. This would give us a fighting chance, and if we could hold them long enough, the other Greek city-states would have time to prepare. With that in mind, I selected 300 of my finest warriors. Each Spartan I chose was a father, ensuring that even if they fell in battle, their lineage would continue. We marched toward Thermopylae, knowing full well that many of us would not return. But we marched with pride because we knew that our sacrifice could save Greece. As we marched, we were joined by thousands of other Greeks, warriors from city-states like Thespiae and Thebes. In total, around 7,000 men stood with us at Thermopylae. But even with our combined forces, we were vastly outnumbered. Xerxes' army was said to number over 100,000, perhaps even more. To some, it seemed like an impossible battle, but to me, it was the only option. We could not let Greece fall without a fight. When we arrived at Thermopylae, we fortified our position, knowing that the battle would begin soon. The pass was narrow, with steep cliffs on one side and the sea on the other. It was the perfect place for a small force to hold off a much larger army. Our shields would lock together, our spears would strike with precision, and the Persians would have no room to maneuver. Xerxes' army arrived shortly after. The sight of it was overwhelming, endless ranks of soldiers stretching as far as the eye could see. But we Spartans felt no fear. We had been trained for this our entire lives. Xerxes, confident in his victory, sent emissaries to demand our surrender. He promised us wealth, land, and our lives if we laid down our arms. I looked his messengers in the eye and gave them a simple reply: Mollen Lab. Come and take them. We would not bow to an empire. We would fight for our freedom. The first day of battle arrived. Xerxes, still confident, sent waves of his soldiers at us. They charged, screaming battle cries, but they were met with our wall of shields and spears. We fought in tight phalanx formations, shoulder to shoulder, our shields forming an impenetrable barrier. With each thrust of our spears, we cut down the advancing Persians. The narrow pass worked to our advantage. Only a small number of Persians could engage us at once, and we Spartans were disciplined, well-trained, and relentless. We had no fear of death. As long as we stood together, we knew we could hold the line. By the end of the first day, The ground was littered with Persian dead. Xerxes, frustrated, could not believe that a mere few thousand Greeks had held off his mighty army. He decided to change tactics. On the second day, he sent in his elite troops, the Immortals. These were the best soldiers in the Persian Empire, undefeated in battle. But even they could not break through our defenses. We fought them off, just as we had fought off the others. By the end of the second day, Xerxes was furious. He had underestimated us, and now he knew that his army would not easily defeat the Greeks. But then, on the night of the second day, we were betrayed. A Greek named Ephialtes, driven by greed, showed Xerxes a secret mountain path that led behind our position. This path would allow the Persians to outflank us and attack from both sides. When I learned of the betrayal, I knew that our time had come. I gathered my men and told them the truth. We were surrounded, and there was no escape. I could have ordered a retreat, but that was not the Spartan way. I would not leave the battlefield. I would not abandon my post. Instead, I ordered the majority of the Greek forces to withdraw so they could live to fight another day. But I, along with my 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans, chose to stay. We would make our final stand at Thermopylae, knowing that our deaths would not be in vain. On the third day, the sun rose over the battlefield, and we knew it would be our last. The Persians attacked from all sides, but we fought with everything we had. Our spears broke, and we drew our swords. When our swords shattered, we fought with our hands. Every Spartan, every Thespian, and every Theban knew that this was the end. But none of us gave an inch. We had trained for this moment our entire lives. Spartans do not retreat. Spartans do not surrender. We fought with the ferocity of men who knew that their sacrifice would be remembered for all time. One by one, my men fell. I fought alongside them, as a king should. I watched as the finest warriors I had ever known gave their lives for the freedom of Greece. In the end, I too fell in battle, just as the oracle at Delphi had foretold. But even as I drew my last breath, I knew that we had done what we came to do. We had delayed Xerxes long enough for the rest of Greece to prepare. We had given our lives so that Greece might live. Though Xerxes won the battle, his victory came at a tremendous cost. Thousands of his soldiers lay dead on the battlefield, and the delay we had caused allowed the Greek city-states to unite. 1 year later, at the Battle of Salamis and the Battle of Plataea, the Greeks defeated Xerxes' forces and secured their freedom. But it was not just the battles that made Thermopylae legendary. It was the courage of those who stood and fought, knowing they would not return. It was the spirit of freedom that drove us to face impossible odds and refuse to surrender. Today, the name Thermopylae is synonymous with heroism. Monuments stand in our honor, and our story is told not only in Greece, but around the world. We showed that a small group of determined men could stand against an empire and inspire generations to come. Remember us, not just as warriors, but as men who fought for something greater than ourselves. Our legacy lives on in the hearts of all who value freedom and courage. If this story moved you, honor our memory by liking this video, subscribing to Immutable Stories, and hitting the notification bell. By sharing these stories, you help keep the spirit of heroism alive. Thank you for watching, And may the bravery of the 300 inspire you always.